So as I mentioned, I'm with Archie. I'm Kim, VP of Sales overseeing Americas and Europe. Archie is a mobile DSP, 100% programmatic. And we want to talk today about marrying your data that we're ingesting into a DSP with the creative for reactivation success. So Archie, as I mentioned, is 100% DSP. We're bidding on in-app inventory through programmatic. We have our own bidder, as I mentioned. We really focus on campaign and creative selection based on data. And we have our own integrated creative studio. So we're building ads for customers, whether they give us their ads on their own or we build them for them. We can protect all IP as well. And and our own ad servers. So go ahead. So what we want to talk about is reactivation or retargeting. So we all know in the desktop world this happens in a often fashion with cookies. So someone's finding your browser history and what you're searching for, what you put in your cart. So the technology is actually finally caught up in mobile, and we can actually do the same thing. So we want to talk about how to activate your lapsed users by driving them to reinstall the app if they uninstalled, or to complete a post-install action if they were there and left their cart empty, for example, but they didn't actually uninstall. So we redirect the user to the App Store if they've uninstalled, or relaunch the app if it's still on their device. So when we look at the bid stream, so because we're a programmatic partner, we're listening to impressions coming through, say, for example, MoPub or AdColony or AppLovin or Google. We're listening to these impressions coming in, and we're identifying who those people are. So we know from that bid stream their age, their apps on their phone, they might have Twitter, the device that they're using, their gender, and what content they're consuming. And we ingest that data to help our algorithms learn how to bid on that user. So we do have that rich source of data. In the next slide, what can we add to that? So I mentioned what we're collecting in the bid stream. We add our own machine learning to that, and we're ingesting post-back data. So if you have an app, you're watching what that user is doing. They've installed, they've downloaded, they've registered, they've purchased, whatever they've done, we're tracking all that data. So from there, we want to create segments. I think the big missed opportunity currently with mobile on the reactivation side is creating the right segments so you can retarget that user just like you would on desktop. And from those segments, we create audience profiles. So the data that informs the best app ever that you want to talk to, you want to create that segment to retarget. You want to listen to that bid stream data. You want to use the machine learning that any of the DSPs have. We have a very hands-off approach, which means there's not a lot of humans involved. There's actually machines and algorithms making those decisions. We're continuing to ingest the post-back, so what happened to the app after it was downloaded, and we're creating those audience profiles. So let's dig a little bit deeper into retargeting. And what we'll find in terms of creating segments is, go ahead. So there's really 4 pillars if you want to retarget an audience. We know that the rate of app downloads, whether anybody wants to talk about it or not, is sort of declining, and it's very segmented into a very certain group. So gaming and dating and commerce is very popular, but the rest is sort of waning. So it's very important to re-engage the users that you've already got. So we want to talk about building an audience list, which we'll talk about in more depth in terms of those segments. The other very important thing is match rate. So when you're talking to a partner like ourselves, you really want to talk to them about what kind of reach they have. So if you have let's say you have a segment of 250,000 users, you want to reach as many of those people as you can, and that's what we call a match rate. So you have to have plugged into many partners on the programmatic side in order to reach that user base. Because you can have good performance without scale, and it's not really going to matter. So we want to talk about match rate. How many users can we find in the bid stream? Third piece is creatives. So if we go to the effort of creating the segments and we go to the effort of finding those people in the bid stream, if we're not delivering the right creative, it's going to be all for naught. So you're going to waste a lot of money. So I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about the creatives. On the model front, what we're really talking about is continuing to ingest the data around, did that person actually reinstall? Did that person actually create or do a in-app purchase after we re-engaged with them? So these are the 4 pillars that we look at when we're talking about re-engagement with Archie. Audience segments for retargeting. So we really look at creating this really fine-tuned cohort of people that division, a segment based on spend and user activity. So if you're a gaming app, you want to look at level played, how much did they buy in app purchase, how far did they get in the game, et cetera. If you're commerce, you might want to look at what did they put in the cart, how much did they purchase in the past. And so we help you create those audience segments. And literally on programmatic, we're taking that, let's say it's 250,000, 500,000, 1 million users in that segment, and we're going out and finding them, and then we're delivering the best ad. So on a gaming side, when we think about, this is just an example, right? If you're a gaming app advertiser, you might want to look at a segment to target of users that have been gone from your game for 30 days, but they spent $1 to $10 or $10 to $50, so you can create those different segments. You also might want to target a non-spender. I'd be the non-spender. I play a lot of games I've never spent. So you might want to target them because you want to re-engage them into the app to become a spender. You also can target a level reached user, so a level 1 through 50 or level 51 to 20. Everyone who plays games understands what that is, and so we can create those segments. So the next slide we'll talk about, so a non-gaming example. If you are commerce, for example, and you're selling goods through your app, and you've spent all this money to acquire users, but now you've got this segment that are 7-day lapse. They've been gone. You can do that 7, 14, 30, 60, 90, whatever you want to do. And so you can target them, but you say, I want to target the 7-day lapsed users because they spent, $20 to $50 with me one time, and they've spent, $50 to $100. Similarly to gaming, you can also say, if you've got the browser user who's like downloaded your app and you're a commerce app and they're looking and they're shopping and they never buy. So you can target them with the right message. And what's really exciting with mobile, going back, the last point is add to cart. So I'll show you in a second how we can actually ingest product feed now, much like desktop, where we can say, hey, you actually looked at these items, you put them in your cart, and now you're gone. And so with programmatic, I can send them an ad in an in-app message, in-app inventory, that could be video or whatever, that says, hey, you left this stuff in your cart. So this is actually happening, and we can address that in the segment in the creative. So kind of pulling that together in terms of different segments, that means different creative opportunities. On the left, you have the gaming example, which is a 30-day lapsed users. They've been gone from your game, but they completed, an old version of the game, and they're a medium spender. On the right-hand side, you have as an example, a shopping app. They've made purchases before, but they've been gone for more than 7 days. You could change that to 30 or 90. And they've added stuff to the cart. So we're going to target that group. So this is where data and creative come together. So we've created all that data. Customers have sent us their segments. Now we start to look at the creative. So on what we do at Archie is what we call a champion challenger creative. And we iterate this, I mentioned before, we have our own creative studio. So we'll build all the creative for all of our customers at no extra charge as part of the campaign. So this is obviously a food ordering app generically. So let's say we've put this app into the environment on programmatic, and we've decided that is the best KPI. That's the creative that's doing the best job for us. Best click-through rate, best conversion rate, et cetera. What we will do is actually ingest app store updates, social media live ops, and client feedback. What that all means is, let's say there's an update to the app. We want to inform the user that there's been an update, and so we can put that into the new storyboard, create a new champion, and then the champion gets challenged. The challenger gets challenged with the challenger, that whole thing. It's a battle, and then we decide on who wins. And the key thing is that we're doing that on every 2 to 3 week basis for all of our customers on a regular basis. Because what you don't want to do is find yourself where you've created all these segments, identified them, and then if you send the same ad, it will saturate very fast. And your click-through rate will just really plummet. So what we want to do, it's like TV, right? You want to send a fresh message to the right user base that's captivating, and I think we're finally getting there on mobile that we can actually iterate that on a very, as frequent a basis as the user is consuming content. So on the next slide, we talk about, different messages for different segments. This is a little bit gaming focused right here, but I mentioned gaming apps update themselves in the App Store all the time. So there's a new update. There could be a new character. There could be a new battle. There could be whatever they're doing. So let's say you've created that segment of that user and you want to target that ad to them. On the right-hand side, special events. I see this a lot with RPG games. They're creating battles. They're creating challenge. Fortnite is doing this. They have a battle all the time, and they bring users together. So if you did use Fortnite as an example, you might have a user that was lapsed for 7 to 14, 30 days, and you want to say, hey, there's a new battle. There's a new challenge, whatever, come back into the game. I think on the commerce example, I think this is where we're the least sophisticated in terms of an ecosystem. I think the main message I want to point here is that we actually can do what is done in desktop now, where we can take your cart and say, I have this fashion app, commerce app, I haven't touched it for 30 days, but gosh, I just got an ad because I'm playing solitaire and there's an ad that shows me the actual items that were in my cart. That is actually happening. We can ingest the content, we can target that user, and we can deliver that ad. It's a pretty significant advancement in the mobile space as it relates to that sort of retargeting. On the right-hand side, on the right-hand side is just a gaming example. Issue a challenge, right? You got to a certain level, come back, issue that. How far can you go? I don't know what game that is, but it's a good example. Okay, so another thing is very important, right? We go through all these efforts to create the segments. We find out, 7-day lapsed users, 30-day lapsed users. We want to do all this, but if we send it in the wrong language, nothing's going to happen. So we want to make sure that we're localizing the language for the geo that you're delivering the ad. At Archie, we translate in 21 different languages. So we would create the segment with you. You'd send that to us. We would build the creative for you, and we'd also translate that to the language that you're delivering. So if you're running an ad in Korea, Singapore, wherever, we would actually make that translation. And so this is just a basic right side A/B testing, which is click-through rate non-Korean language in a Korean native and non-Japanese language in a non-Japanese native. So the point is if you need to translate your ads to the local language. So this is some other examples around different segments. So you had a medium level user, but they never bought in your ad. That would be me. Sorry, I don't buy in-app purchases, but I know a lot of people do. But I play a lot. So, what kind of ad do I want? Next is I'm a medium level user and I've paid a little, bought some stuff in the ad, and on the right side is the high level high payer. So we want to target the ad associated to the relevance of that user. If I'm a non-payer, I just want to know, hey, you need to come back. If I'm a high payer, I want to be challenged, right? Can you take on the queen? That's basically what we're trying to resonate with that segment. So to translate this into commerce, which I think is super exciting in our space because we're finally there, is on the left-hand side, what did you leave in your cart? So imagine someone like me that was a fashion buyer and I put stuff in my cart on the app and I never purchased, and now I'm playing Wordscapes and I see that ad for the product that I left in my cart. That's actually happening and very exciting to see that's going on in mobile. On the middle tier, we've got someone who actually purchased before, so you can actually do a personalized promo to that person. I know you bought this stuff before, you haven't been around for a while, I'm going to give you 20% off. That's basically what that says. On the right side, high spender, we know the high value brands they bought, So we're going to give them an even deeper discount and give them 30% to come back and buy that same stuff. Next. So quick case study. I know we're into lunch. So I want to run through this very quickly. I think hopefully you got the notion of how to marry data with creative. But let's just... So I'm actually going to go to the next slide because we're going to go quickly. So this is kind of the ultimate case study, right? I mentioned before, if you're working with a programmatic partner, and just as a reminder, programmatic is anything outside of self-attributed networks. So it's in-app advertising outside of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, Twitter, Reddit, probably. So all this other inventory. It doesn't do you, It doesn't do you any good to have good performance with no scale. Or it doesn't do you any good to have high scale and no performance. So what we really want to get to is the far right-hand side, where we've started the campaign week 1. By week 15, and yes, sometimes in programmatic it takes a while to optimize because there's a lot of inventory out there. But we want to get to, we've added geos, we've added segments. A segment, again, is a list of customers you want to target based on their cohort. So now, the light blue line, we're at the ROAS goal, return on ad spend, and we're also at scale. So I think that might be the last slide. Maybe there's one more. You can go ahead. Obviously, yeah, so the last thing is obviously with personalized creative, don't go through the effort of creating segments. Don't go through that terrible pain of creating segments and sending them to your partner if you're not delivering the right ad. Because if you create the segment and you're saying, hey, here's my app, but wait a minute, I'm like level 40 with you. Why do you send me an ad that says you just need to try out your app? So make sure that you're managing the right personalized creative with the segment that you're targeting, because that will obviously improve your click-through rate. Yeah, that's click-through rate. So I think one thing. So when you're doing user acquisition targeting, which we also do, or user acquisition campaigns at Archie, we do that as well. One thing to know is that you're starting very slow. You might start with display, because that display behavior and how those people are reacting is building the models for algorithms to optimize. But with retargeting on the left, you really want to kind of spray it out there. You want rewarded video, you want interstitial video, you want native, you want display. Because what the key thing is, you get your match rate. Are you finding that user? Because honestly, if you hit a high-paying, high-engaged user with a display ad, they're more likely to react because they know your game or your app or your whatever. So there's a little bit of difference between the user acquisition strategy with ad units and the retargeting with ad units. And I think that will be it, because we'll go to the next one. We're done. So thank you. I know that was into lunch, so I'm glad you're enjoying lunch. Thanks a lot.